I've been having a heap of fun with Minecraft Dungeons. It takes a bunch of things that are great about the action RPG genre, the loot, the satisfying moment-to-moment combat, and the consistent escalation of power, and runs them through a charming Minecraft filter. This game is a blast, and while it's accessible, there's still plenty to learn on your journey to defeating the Arch-Illager on Apocalypse difficulty. Here are some tips and strategies that may help you improve. Your capabilities in Minecraft Dungeons are entirely determined by your sword, bow, armor, and artifacts. As opposed to growing in power each time you level up, you instead earn an enchantment point, which can be spent to augment your gear. The stronger your loadout, the more you can crank the difficulty, which then lets you find better loot. While it can be tempting to stick with the weapon that's working, it will eventually be outclassed, so when you have other options with higher power ratings, you should think about swapping it out. A good time to consider this is when you have spare enchantment points. That way you can put points into and test an alternate piece of gear without having to salvage your existing item first. There's nothing worse than salvaging a weapon you're having fun with in favour of something that's technically stronger, only for you to hate how it plays. Your choice of enchantments on an item are precious, as there's no way to undo them once they're locked in. That means, for instance, that if you're enchanting a unique item, you'll definitely want to think carefully about how the choices you make will suit your approach. That said, the only way to really know which enchantments will work best for you is by trying as many of them as possible, so experiment. There are plenty of enchantments that don't really click until you've tested them, and you can always try them on inferior gear before committing to the best items in your inventory. You can also be offered the same enchantment more than once on a single item, and the ability will stack if you choose to activate it twice. This opens up some pretty fun possibilities. Artifacts function much like spells in Minecraft Dungeons and aren't locked in, so you're free to swap them around as you go. Do this. Some artifacts only come into their own when paired with specific weapons or to support specific builds. Test new ones you come across and swap out anything that doesn't function as an important part of your game plan. Every piece of loot you pick up in Minecraft Dungeons has a number indicating its power. Now, that rating is important, but not nearly as important as its other stats and abilities and what enchantments you can apply to it. If I could only choose between these 73 power sickles and these 71 power ones, I'd choose the latter because they actually have the two specific enchantments I'm looking for. Similarly, this unique bow might have a slightly lower power rating than this power bow, but it has an additional perk and I can have 3 enchantments activated at once. It's no contest. For artifacts, on the other hand, there's one simple rule: the higher number wins. Unless you want to double up on an artifact, which you can do, keep the highest power level version of each and salvage the rest. Oh, and don't pay attention to whether an artifact is rare or not. All that means is you'll get significantly more emeralds for salvaging it. You can see the gear and artifacts that can be found in each location on the mission select screen. So if there's something specific you want, grind again. Whether it's your first time playing through on default difficulty or you've made it all the way to Apocalypse, you can tweak the challenge ahead of each and every mission by adjusting the slider on the mission select screen. Each tier has a recommended power level, but my rule of thumb is to always attempt missions that are set at least a tier above my current power level. That way the gameplay is more challenging, and I have a chance to nab more premium loot. There's no need to obsessively clear out your inventory after each mission, as more options are generally better than few. Instead, just tab through each section every so often and get rid of the clearly inferior gear. That said, a good time to do a big cleanup is when you badly need better gear. Spend the emeralds you earn at the blacksmith and hopefully roll yourself a unique or two. In Minecraft Dungeons, every build is a hybrid, as you always have both a melee weapon and a ranged weapon equipped, so you should make the most of both. Don't focus on putting enchantment points into your bow at the expense of your sword, for instance. Spread them out, then max out the enchantments that are of the highest value. Your armor is the main way you can lean towards melee over ranged or vice versa. But even then, unless you have a very specific build, you can choose enchantments that serve both purposes. This full metal armor, for instance, is great for melee combat, but the enchantments I've chosen work well whether I'm attacking up close or trying to stay at a distance. Artifacts also let you play to your strengths. If you're attacking at range more, you can select things like Flaming Quiver, Fireworks Arrow, or Corrupted Beacon, whereas if you like getting up close and personal, you might prefer Deathcap Mushroom, Harvester, or Shock Powder. I typically have a mix. It's important to pick enchantments that enhance each weapon. Moondaggers, for instance, are fast and furious, so any enchantments that have a percentage chance to proc with each attack, such as Poison Cloud, Thundering, or Radiance, will likely be very effective, and can lead to really fun, really unique feeling combat. Another example would be Imploding Crossbow. This bow shoots arrows that pull in enemies and explode on impact, but has low ammo. You can shore this up with the Infinity enchantment, giving yourself a 48% chance to replenish an arrow after shooting. You can now use it much more freely. Each weapon should also complement the rest of your loadout. If you have Electrified in your armor, for instance, you'll zap enemies when you roll, so you may want Committed on your melee weapon, as you'll then deal extra damage to them out of the gate. There are a ton of synergies like this, both big and small, to utilize. Just because a piece of gear is unique doesn't mean you should use it. Sometimes it'll be a common item that has the stats and enchantments you need to make the rest of your loadout sing, so use that instead. If you have friends committed to co-op, you can play Minecraft Dungeons as more of a class-based game and choose your weapons and enchantments based on how they'll work with other members of the party. Oh, and always give other players a heads up when you're going to toss TNT. It's the only friendly fire in the game. Some mobs can have an outsized influence on a fight. Enchanters may be physically weak, but they can really stop you in your tracks, so try and take them out first. Geomancers fall into the same category, as they summon in exploding totems and create walls to box you in. If an enemy limits your movement, prioritize it. Missions often have hidden treasure chests in specific locations, and once you know where they are, you can get them each time. Hidden chests are also often waiting in dead ends, so I like to explore each map in full to make sure I don't miss any. If a hidden chest is nearby, you can actually hear it. It makes a humming sound. Oh, and check the overlay map and full map regularly. Not only do they help you explore thoroughly, but sometimes you'll actually miss a treasure chest, but it'll be marked on the map, so you can see it and double back. There are 4 bonus dungeons to find within missions. Creeper Woods has Creepy Crypt, Soggy Swamp hides Soggy Cave, Pumpkin Pastures harbours Arch-Haven, and High Block Halls houses Underhalls. These don't always spawn, but once they're unlocked, they appear on the mission menu and have specific gear drops just like other missions. And once you've beaten Minecraft Dungeons on default difficulty, you can start hunting down the 9 runes. There's one hidden in each of the main missions, and if you find them all, you'll unlock a neat nod to Diablo 2. I hope these tips have helped you improve your game, and if action RPGs are your thing, check out the Torchlight 3 Early Access trailer and the Reveal cinematic for Diablo 4. And for everything else, stick with IGN.